Father Bryden here. I hope everything's going well. Been a while since I recorded my last video. I'm really lagging behind, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm not here to complain. I'm not here to be sad. I'm here to talk about a milestone in my personal life. Not one that I really worked hard to do, but I made it to 31 years old. And throughout, I think the first video I made was a video about turning 26 years old. And since then, I've tried to do somewhat of a public reflection, thinking about the year that was, what I learned, what I'm hoping to do better, maybe sharing something insightful along the way, most of the times failing at that. But overall, keeping this sort of practice alive, and I think a good reason for me to be back here creating a video today. I say this with every video. I hope to create more video. I hope to make good content. Just like many things in life, it's easy to fail. It's easy to shave most of your face and then be left with this ridiculous mustache at 31 years old. And this is part of my crisis here today. So I'm recording this on my actual birthday right now, and bear with me as I walk through, I think, a couple of things that are worthwhile sharing. So first of all, I wanted to do a little year in review of what happened this year. And I can go back and I'll try to throw up some images here that are representative of it. But I look back a year, we had moved into a house, my partner, Monica, and I, into a house, which was a super exciting time, something that I had wanted to do for a very long time and really struggled with because I had owned my own business since 2015. And there had been times where I had been trying to buy a house, and I remember very vividly one time walking into the bank and basically getting laughed out of that bank because of my sort of financial history and the record of the business and all of that. And so it was really a dream of mine that had been rejected multiple times. And to finally meet the right person, come together and be able to make that possible was a really exciting thing and a dream come true. And with that, I think one of the lessons that I learned is that interest rates, it's an interesting point to start, but interest rates have an impact on this. And so for us, we went with a variable rate mortgage. And that was, to me, a thread throughout last year. You're at the highest balance you're ever going to have on your house. You start with these great low payments, and all of a sudden these interest rates start to kick up. The day we walked into the house, went up 0.5 and then continued to climb since then. And so throughout this year, these triggers, these interest rates has been a source of stress in my life. And so one of the things I've had to deal with is that sort of uncomfortability, that realization, that feeling that I'd struggled with my sort of this gut feeling that we were making the wrong choice with this variable rate. And I didn't really listen to that gut feeling. And so dealing with that sort of knowledge and guilt and anger about that, all of that was baked into last year and something that I'm still working through. And so when I think of the journey in the year, and then also what I'm trying to work on and improve, one of those things is how can I become more resilient to stress, things that are in the past that you no longer can control, and to enjoy my life and the means of things that I actually can control. Those, I think, are super sort of important things that I still struggle with and hope to be able to do a better job with. And if I can continue that journey, it takes me right after my 30th birthday. I head off to Burning Man, and the first Burning Man back since it had really taken a hiatus because of COVID. There had been an unofficial burn the year before. I had gone in 2019, the last year, my first year ever, and the last year that happened before COVID, which was to me one of the most transformative events and times of my life. And so I was super excited to return last year after my 30th birthday for another experience. And with me came Fatzel Shah, the co-founder of Speak AI, and then of course a good friend. And it was amazing to come back, have that sense of scale really revitalized, to see that it matched what I had felt the first time when I was such a different person, a younger person, more naive person, had taken less blows from life. And to return and see some of that magic was a really beautiful thing. And also to see a friend experiencing that a good friend alongside you, to have these moments. And there was an amazing moment where we were seeing Mayan Warrior, rest in peace, and Robot Hearts on a sunrise set. And Fatzel just looked at me and said, I get it. And I think those moments are beautiful moments that we can always remember in our life. I'll never forget it. And a highlight for me last year, as I look back on 30 in a sort of a year in review and keep trending things along here, which is, in parallel with all these sort of personal ambitions and goals, there's this overhanging business that I run at Speak AI. And we had a very interesting year, really starting in September of 2022 with the launch of really OpenAI and ChatGPT, and then through some marketing and some foundational setup, we saw this growth trajectory in the business that was new to us, unexpected, very exciting, very scary. It went from a couple thousand people in the system to almost 100,000 people now who have signed up for Speak. And with that, so many interesting things emerge. And in this time, we also did Techstars. We took on the first sort of outside capital that was non-dilutive, capital. So, hey, we value your company at this. We're going to give you this check. We expect you to do this. And so that was mixed into this, gave us some life, also gave us some stress and pressure from above. And we had to all of a sudden go from this like dark ages of Speak, where it was very barren, to all of a sudden there's so many people signing up, so many people asking questions, and people wanting to do these different things, and us wanting to help but not having the capacity to, and all the challenges that come from it. And really came out of that Techstars, which, if you don't know Techstars, it's an accelerator, not even an accelerator, it's like a venture capital firm, but for early stage companies. And we came out of that, had a lot of talks with investors at that time, and nothing really came together. And I blame that a lot on myself, on my inability to articulate. And in the early stages of those conversations, it was very obvious, we didn't really have that much traction or growth. As things started to grow even within the organization, we actually started to have at least some metrics and traction to be able to speak of, and yet we still were unable to articulate, I think, truly valuably to at least an investor's perspective why we are a company worth investing in. And so that was a difficult time, and part of it an audit of myself, and you get a lot of rejections and a lot of no's throughout that time that make you question yourself and why you're doing this and who you are and what are you even good at this and all those things. And so that really ran from like September of last year all the way until even today. I have a call after this with an investor on my birthday. And while I have this optimism in life and overall, there's still this sort of pattern that I haven't seemed to be able to break, this sort of puzzle that I haven't been able to put together to fully articulate what we're doing or why we're worth believing in. And it has not been without counteracting evidence that's not true. We've had customers. We've had almost 100,000 people sign up. We've had investment from the federal and provincial government here who does believe in what we're doing, and we went through a lot of due diligence to make that happen. So there are, where you're having these moments of sort of frustration and pain and suffering, you're also having these moments of, okay, the customers like what we're doing. We're doing something right. We're getting investment from Canada. We're seeing these sort of two things. And so one of the other lessons, or what I'm again trying to reiterate on there, is that you have to hold on to the good, and you just have to assess. It's not even the bad, but assess the things where you're maybe not executing where you want. And I'm working through that consistently. It's something that I hope to bring into the year again, and into a year of which I'll be back here at 32 saying hopefully not the exact same things, but working through that. And then I think overall there was a lot of other great things that happened in the last year. I went to Portugal with Vatzel, my partner Monica, went for a conference web summit, and that was an amazing experience. I traveled, I learned so much, I loved it, and had the best fish I've ever eaten. A lot of good things came out of that trip in Portugal, so I'll try to flash an image up here. We did a trip to San Francisco for the Techstars FounderCon conference. First time I'd been to San Francisco, which had been a long time dream, and I came back from Portugal saying, hey, we should move to Portugal. I came back from San Francisco saying, hey, we should move to San Francisco. And Vatzel and I went for the conference, but also did just some beautiful drives along the coast and around the ocean, and watched the sunset, and I had some, I'd say beautiful sort of peak moments during that time that I'll really never forget. And I have a lot of love for that place and hope to return to. And then the really big travel trip came up. which was India. So January 15th, I think, until March, Monica and I were in India, and I learned many valuable lessons there. And I packed up for India like I was going on Survivor, and all these nervousness and fear and expectations. And was meeting Monica's parents, and they don't speak English, and I don't speak Hindi, and I was practicing Hindi and meeting all her family, and all these things came to fruition. I'm working, trying to grow the business. We're going through this helter-skelter time where the business is actually scaling up, where we're talking to investors, and I'm 11 hours ahead of where I normally would be, and we're traveling all throughout this ginormous country with 1 billion people, and seeing just so many different parts and cultures and weather and food. And I learned a lot of lessons through that. One, which I can be comfortable wherever I am. And I think that confidence that you can do that, you can sleep on the ground, you can do, that gives you a lot of confidence in life overall. So I think that is one of the benefits of travel and pushing yourself outside the comfort zone, is you can be comfortable in uncomfortable places. And I'm really grateful for that experience. I miss India. I learned so much and I absolutely loved it. And there's something very inspirational about sort of the culture and energy in India that is hard to articulate, but very obvious when you actually experience it for yourself. Now, that trip was 2.5 months, and it brings us much closer to the time where we are now on this day. Since then, we've done renovations in our house, another big undertaking that took a lot more time and a lot more money than you thought, and a lot more choices to make, a lot more things. And again, very hard to complain about that, but still a pretty big undertaking. And as I reflected and relaxed over this weekend for the first time in what felt like a bit, I said, it feels like we have got a lot of things out of the way. Even Vatzel had come over. We had a nice little fire last night, and he said the same things. Like, you guys seem settled here now. And that felt really nice, because it would have been pretty overwhelming the first year and planning for the trip and all of this. And to have that a little bit moment of, okay, I don't like the interest rates, but I like the place that I live. I went to the beach this morning, 8-minute walk. I drove today. My back's a little sore. I'm getting old, all right? But that's a huge thing of relief. And so it's not really a recommendation that I can make there to anyone, but at 31 today, I feel like there is a little bit of a sense of relief that is very powerful and valuable to me after a lot of years of sort of instability and inability to predict who I am and where I'm going to be. All of these things have been super challenging for several years. And in some ways, I'm glad I went through them, because it built the capability to adapt and work through those things. But at the same time, those were challenging times. And so I'm glad to have a little place of peace and a home that feels like a home and that I love. And I'm close to my family, but I'm also close to Toronto, but I'm also close to nature. And when you can hit those, when you get a little older and you figure out what you like and what matters to you, you can make that reality come true. And I'm really grateful for that capability. And I hope that I can continue that, because although this is one of the things that was one of my lessons of what did I learn this year, is like the world can change rapidly, meaning adaptability is crucial. And so I'll just think of my example that is very visceral for me this year has been AI, the open AI, this hype cycle that we're in. And with that, this disturbance of the prediction of where we're headed into the future. And for myself, I used to feel like I could predict the future somewhat accurately. And now I don't feel like I can predict that anymore, just be with the rapid exponential transformations and innovations in technology. And with that, the unpredictable element of COVID, and then economy, and unknowing of where the economy is going to be, and seeing signs that it's recovering, and at the same time seeing layoffs and debt to GDP ratio and all this stuff. So many conflicts that are taking place right now. And with that in mind, with that sort of lack of predictability, the only thing you can predict is that you need to be ready for things to change. And so when I'm thinking about this year and what I learned, and also what I'm trying to prepare for, it is that adaptability. Went camping 2 weekends ago up in Algonquin Park. It was the first time I had gone backwoods camping, completely detached, off the grid, with a relatively small group thankfully of much more experienced campers than myself. But that was another sort of signal of adaptability, and also that you can be comfortable even if in some definition, those things could be uncomfortable. And that strength that comes from that knowledge about yourself is super meaningful. And if you can build that in through experimentation, through testing. I've also been working out a lot more through squats, which I both love and of course hate, and the feeling in your legs the day after, all that. If you can continue to build that practice in, you can become so much more resilient and strong for when those moments come when you actually need it. You've practiced, you've built that practice, and you're ready to go. That's a lesson that I think I learned this year. I think I've learned it every year. You just learn a little bit more and then you forget and then you relearn. It's something that I hope to deploy and continue to learn moving forward. And I'll move on to another sort of thing that I learned this year was you can always sort of reconnect with friends. And there was a lot of separation, I think, during COVID. As you get older, as people get married, they have kids. For me, I moved only 2 hours away, but geographically, it's actually a pretty significant change in how far away I am from people that I spent a lot of time with. And in a way, had become disconnected. I think of two good friends, Luke and Nick, and we're really a group of very close friends, but we had barely even seen each other for 2 years. And what I really loved is that this idea that you can always reconnect with your friends. And it's changed. Like this summer, they've come down multiple times. I've gotten together with them back in London, Ontario. And those moments really mean a lot. And when they're that good of friends, time doesn't matter as much. You've built that relationship, and it's almost like things, in a way, things have changed, but things haven't changed. And I think that's a really beautiful part of our experience that we can have as people and as friends who have known each other for a long time. I even made an effort to go to a stag and doe in my hometown growing up, Lucan, Ontario, where I got to reconnect with a lot of people, and all sort of nervous to go there and see all these people, but it was a great time, and I'm glad I went. And sometimes it's also that fear, even if it's around social connection, can be significant. And if you can push through that, generally, even though connection can seem scary, it's better than being disconnected. Or if things have changed and maybe you're friends and you aren't the same people anymore, maybe you have that realization and that's for the best anyways. I think either way, putting that test to experimenting, trying to connect is worthwhile, because even if it doesn't work out perfectly, maybe you learn something about yourself that is super valuable too. Also, I really went stream of thought for this document that I put it together yesterday, just on a Sunday. I was thinking about what did I learn this year, and if I wanted to make a video, what would I even talk about? One of the things that I'll say is dogs. They give you so much joy and love. And I'm really, grateful. Tasia, I have a beautiful dog. I'll try to throw up a picture of him here. I just love him so much. And also, he's almost 2 years old here now. And the amount that he's changed throughout this time, maybe partly because we cut off his testicles, but because you've built a better relationship, you become closer, is a really beautiful thing. And there was a moment when I had first gotten Tasia, Monica and I, and it was scary because he wasn't that cuddly. He wasn't that. And I was like, wow, this is really what I wanted a dog for. And I had started to accept that this may just be him and that he might not like that affection. And in the last 6 months, the transformation for that affection, and he's just become so cuddly and always, it's just a beautiful thing, and it makes me so happy. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful for Tasia. I'm grateful for our relationship continuing to grow. And really, the only regret I would have is not getting a dog earlier. But with that regret, it doesn't even make sense, because then I wouldn't have Tasia. If you can get an animal in your life, if you already have one, tell them you love them. I know you already do. And just meditate on the joy that they bring you. People always say, hey, it's hard to get a dog. I don't think it's hard. It's love. It's joy. And any difficulty is outweighed 10 times, many times over, by the joy and love that you get. So those are some reflections on last year. I'm already at 20 minutes basically talking here. And so maybe I'll just finish on some hopes for this year. And for me, it is continue to find ways to be resilient to stress. I struggle with stress, with anxiety, with existential crises almost every single day. I find it hard to run a company. I find the world to be sometimes quite dark and deceiving and scary and maybe not even trending in the right direction. And with that, it can be a difficult thing to wrap your head around and just live in and experience, and find it to be a difficult place sometimes. And yet there's so much good that I'm lucky and privileged to have. And so this year to try to remember that, especially when I'm facing moments of temporary stress, which are going to happen often and continue to happen often and be out of your control, that you won't be able to protect yourself from, because that resilience that I talked about, what did I learn this year, is going to be super necessary to survive and compete and thrive in the world that we're in, and continue to get older. And I'm going to see people who I love very much sadly pass. I'm going to see challenges in the work that I'm doing, or so many difficult things that life throws at you over and over again. And so our focus is to continue to build up that resiliency. For me, I'm finding it through working out. I'm finding it through, I did a little cold plunge in the lake here today, through exercise consistently, through nature immersion, through avoiding jumping right into work right when I start every day, and giving myself that time and space. And so continuing to identify other ways to do that is super valuable and important for me this year. And it compounds because I think I spent previous years of my life in a basement, stressed out to the max. And I probably took a bunch of years off my life already through that time. I felt existentially in pain every single second. And so to finally be able to somewhat break out of that and be generally temperamentally happy and have a happier baseline is really meaningful, and wanting to protect that as much as I can, so I can give the people around me, the ones that I love, the care and joy that they need. And I generally do, unless those stresses take hold of me. I think in general, if you focus on that, then a lot of other pieces start to come together. I think about my relationship with Monica. I think about my love for Tasia, my family and friends, how I can be better. I'm still not great. I'm doing my best. Sometimes I'm not even doing my best. I'm just being me, and that's not always so great sometimes. But either way, that's, I think, a worthwhile focus going in. And I love this idea that your 40s and 50s statistically are supposed to be your happiest, most joyful days and times. I really hope that's true. I do feel that there was moments of optimism and happiness in up into my late teens, and then in the 20s was really difficult. And the 30s have started to turn a little bit more positive for me, and I hope I'm not going to eat those words, but at least that's what I'm feeling right now. There's so much more I could do or say, but I'm guessing most of you haven't made it this far. And so I think in terms of knowledge about being 31 here, maybe you should just quit while you're ahead. So I think I'll do that today. For anyone who checked out this video, I appreciate very much. I hope you got some insights on my journey of turning 31, and whether you're ahead or behind, that there was something worthwhile in this video for you. Continue to explore, continue to experiment, connect, find joy, build resilience, and assess the bad, but cherish the good in your life. Thank you so much.